Have you ever walked into a room and felt invisible, as if no one noticed you, or worse, misunderstood you completely? Maybe you've said something with good intentions, but the other person took it the wrong way. Or perhaps you've trusted someone, only to realize later they had hidden motives. Situations like these leave us wondering, why do people act the way they do? And why is it so hard to truly connect, influence, and be understood? The truth is, every human interaction follows invisible rules. Rules shaped by psychology, emotions, and the unspoken laws of human nature. Most people move through life blind to these rules, but those who master them seem to effortlessly win trust, build influence, and create lasting relationships. This audiobook, Social Intelligence, Essential Laws of Human Nature, How to Read Anyone, is your guide to uncovering those rules. You'll learn how to understand people at a deeper level, decode body language, build trust, influence ethically, and navigate the complex world of human behavior. By the end, you'll not only understand others better, you'll also master yourself, making every interaction an opportunity for growth and connection. So if you're ready to stop feeling overlooked, misunderstood, or manipulated, and instead start moving through life with clarity, confidence, and influence, let's begin. Chapter 1. Understanding the Foundation of Social Intelligence. Imagine this. You walk into a gathering filled with strangers. Some people are laughing, some are engaged in serious conversations, and others sit quietly, observing. You stand there for a moment, unsure where to go or what to say. Do you join the group that's laughing? Do you sit next to the quiet observer? Or do you find yourself awkwardly scrolling through your phone, pretending not to notice the room around you? This moment, small as it seems, is exactly where social intelligence comes into play. Social intelligence is the invisible compass that guides us in human interactions. It helps us decide what to say, when to say it, and how to adapt to different people and situations. Without it, we often feel left out, misunderstood, or even taken advantage of. With it, we gain the ability to connect, influence, and build meaningful relationships. So, what exactly is social intelligence? At its core, it is the ability to understand and navigate human behavior. It is both awareness of yourself and awareness of others. Psychologist Daniel Goleman, who popularized the concept of emotional intelligence, once wrote, "Social intelligence is the capacity to effectively negotiate complex social relationships and environments." From his book Social Intelligence, The New Science of Human Relationships. Think of it this way. Emotional intelligence is understanding your own feelings and regulating them, but social intelligence is the bridge that extends outward. It is about understanding what others feel, why they behave the way they do, and how best to interact with them. It's not manipulation, it's connection. It's not about controlling people, it's about understanding them deeply. A story of connection. Let's bring this to life with an example. Consider the story of Nelson Mandela. After spending 27 years in prison, Mandela walked free and later became the president of South Africa. What made him extraordinary wasn't just his political vision, but his ability to connect with both his allies and his former enemies. Instead of holding on to anger, Mandela invited his prison guards to his inauguration. He wore the jersey of the national rugby team, a symbol of white Afrikaner pride, to unite the divided nation. Why did he do this? Because Mandela understood that true leadership required social intelligence. He recognized the emotions, fears, and hopes of his people. By showing empathy and respect, even to those who opposed him, he turned potential conflict into unity. His actions were more powerful than words, because they touched people on a human level. This is the foundation of social intelligence, the ability to see beyond the surface and connect with the deeper emotions that drive behavior. Everyday life examples. Now, you may be thinking, but I'm not a world leader. And that's true. But social intelligence plays out in our daily lives in ways just as important. When a colleague seems distant during a meeting, social intelligence helps you sense that something is wrong, and maybe ask, "Is everything okay?" instead of assuming they're uninterested. When your friend shares exciting news, It's social intelligence that nudges you to celebrate with them, rather than brushing it off. When negotiating a business deal, it's social intelligence that helps you read between the lines, noticing that the other person values respect and trust even more than money. These small, daily moments add up. They define how people see you, how much influence you carry, and how connected you feel in your relationships. Why social intelligence matters today. We live in an age where digital screens dominate communication. Social media, text messages, and emails often replace face-to-face interaction. While these tools connect us globally, they also strip away many of the subtle human cues, tone of voice, body language, eye contact, that are essential for building trust and understanding. This is why mastering social intelligence has never been more important. It's the skill that allows you to move beyond surface-level interactions and create authentic, lasting connections, whether in personal life, business, or leadership. Breaking down the foundation. So, what makes up the foundation of social intelligence? There are a few key elements. Self-awareness, understanding your own emotions, triggers, and how you come across to others. Empathy, the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to feel what they feel. Social awareness, recognizing the emotions and needs of others in the moment. Adaptability, adjusting your behavior depending on the situation or the people around you. Authenticity, being genuine and consistent, because people can sense when you're faking it. When you combine these elements, you become someone others enjoy being around, someone who can lead, influence, and inspire. The psychology behind it. Social intelligence also has deep psychological roots. Human beings are wired for connection. From ancient times, survival depended on being part of a group. Being socially intelligent meant you could form alliances, avoid conflict, and secure protection. In today's world, the stakes may not always be life or death, but the principle remains. Those who connect well with others often find greater success, happiness, and influence. The philosopher Aristotle once said, "Man is by nature a social animal." This means that understanding others is not just a skill, it's part of what makes us human. Key takeaways. Let's pause here and summarize the key lessons from this chapter. Social intelligence is the art of understanding human behavior and navigating relationships with awareness and empathy. It is built on self-awareness, empathy, adaptability, social awareness, and authenticity. Great leaders like Nelson Mandela exemplify social intelligence by uniting people through empathy and connection. In daily life, social intelligence shows up in how you listen, respond, and adapt to others. In today's digital world, developing this skill is more valuable than ever, because it helps cut through surface-level communication and build genuine relationships. Before we move to the next chapter, I'd like to remind you, if you're finding value in this audiobook, make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Your support helps this channel grow and allows us to keep creating powerful content that helps you grow. Also, share this audiobook with someone you believe will benefit from mastering social intelligence. Together, we can create a community of people who truly understand human nature. Chapter 2. The Laws of Human Nature. Why People Do What They Do. Imagine this. You walk into a meeting, or even just a casual gathering with friends, and within minutes you notice how differently people behave. One person dominates the conversation, another stays quiet but observes, someone else tries to make everyone laugh, while another looks restless, checking their phone. Have you ever asked yourself, why do people act so differently? The answer lies in what we call the laws of human nature, the invisible forces that drive behavior. Every action, every word, even silence, is influenced by these laws. If you don't understand them, you'll always feel confused or misled by people's actions. But once you do, the social world begins to make sense. The hidden drivers of behavior. At the core, people act out of a few universal drivers. The need for survival and security. The desire for connection and belonging. The pursuit of recognition and status. The pull of emotions like fear, pride, envy, and love. Take fear, for example. Fear has been shaping human behavior since the beginning of time. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of loss. When someone avoids speaking up in a group, it's rarely because they have nothing to say. It's often because they fear judgment. On the other hand, recognition and status can drive people to extraordinary heights. Leaders, innovators, and even celebrities thrive on recognition. Sometimes they dedicate their lives to chasing it. Let's look at an example. Abraham Lincoln, one of history's most influential leaders, had an extraordinary ability to understand people. He once said, "When I'm getting ready to reason with a man, I spend 1/3 of my time thinking about myself and what I am going to say, and 2/3 thinking about him and what he is going to say." What Lincoln understood was that human beings are motivated by their own needs, fears, and desires. His success as a leader came not only from intelligence but from empathy, his ability to step into the minds of others and anticipate their reactions. This is a fundamental law of human nature. People are primarily focused on themselves, not you. When you understand that, you can adjust how you interact, making others feel seen and heard. The emotional lens. Another key law is that people rarely act purely on logic. They act on emotions first, then justify their decisions with logic later. Think about it. Why do people buy things they don't really need? Why do some take risks that make no sense? Why do arguments escalate even when the facts are clear? Because emotion is the first filter through which we see the world. Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize, winning psychologist and author of Thinking, Fast and Slow, explained that humans operate with two systems. System 1, fast, emotional, instinctive. System 2, slow, logical, deliberate. Most of the time, System 1 runs the show. Which means when you see someone making a choice that seems irrational, you're actually witnessing the law of emotional decision-making in action. The mirror of desire. Another powerful law. People want to feel significant. They want validation. They want to know their life matters. This explains why compliments, recognition, and even a simple thank you can transform a relationship. Consider Nelson Mandela. His leadership wasn't built only on strength, but on his ability to make people feel valued. After his release from prison, instead of seeking revenge, he chose reconciliation. By acknowledging the humanity of even his former enemies, Mandela won trust and respect on a global scale. He understood that at the heart of human nature is the desire for dignity and belonging. How this affects your daily life. Now, let's bring this closer to home. Think about your workplace, family, or social circle. Why does one colleague constantly seek the spotlight? Why does a friend always compare themselves to others? Why does a sibling get defensive so quickly? It's because they are acting under these same laws. Fear, desire, pride, insecurity, the need for connection. When you understand this, you stop taking things personally. Instead, you start seeing behavior for what it is, a reflection of human nature. Imagine a coworker criticizes your idea in a meeting. Your first instinct might be anger. But step back. Are they criticizing because your idea is bad? Or because they feel insecure about their own contributions? Or maybe they crave recognition and fear you'll outshine them. When you view the situation through the lens of human nature, you realize their reaction says more about them than about you. This shift in perspective gives you control, because you're no longer reacting emotionally, but strategically. Key takeaways for you. So, what should you remember from this chapter? Human behavior is driven by universal laws: survival, belonging, recognition, and emotion. People act on emotion first, logic second. If you want to understand or influence someone, speak to their feelings, not just their mind. Everyone craves significance and dignity. Recognizing this can transform how you connect with others. Behavior often reflects internal struggles, not external realities. Don't take it personally, see the deeper driver. Your next step. As you go about your day, try this simple practice. When someone acts in a way that confuses or frustrates you, don't react immediately. Pause and ask yourself, which law of human nature is at play here? Is it fear? Desire? Pride? Insecurity? This one question can change how you see people forever. And remember, As Robert Greene wrote in The Laws of Human Nature, when you look at people through the lens of their psychology, you stop being surprised by their behavior. Now you've taken a powerful step into understanding human nature. You've seen that behind every smile, every argument, and every decision lies a pattern that can be understood. Master this, and you'll never look at people the same way again. If you're finding value in this audiobook so far, do me a quick favor. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and drop a comment below sharing one behavior you now see differently after listening to this chapter. Your engagement not only helps this channel grow, but also allows more people like you to access insights that can truly transform lives. In the next chapter, we'll explore the power of first impressions, why they matter so much, and how you can master them to open doors in every area of life. Stay tuned. Chapter 3. The Power of First Impressions. Have you ever met someone for the very first time and, within seconds, you just knew whether you liked them or not? Maybe it was the way they carried themselves, their smile, or perhaps how they shook your hand. The truth is, whether we like it or not, first impressions are powerful, and they stick. In fact, psychologists have shown that people form an impression of you in as little as 7 seconds, and often, it's even quicker. That's barely enough time to say hello. But here's the important part. Once that impression is formed, it takes a lot of effort to change it. Think about it. If you meet someone who comes across as rude or arrogant in the first minute, even if later they're kind and generous, that initial feeling still lingers in your mind. It's like a shadow that follows them everywhere. Now, why does this happen? It's because our brains are wired to make snap judgments for survival. Long ago, our ancestors had to quickly decide if a stranger was a threat or a friend. That instinct still lives in us today. So when you walk into a room, people's brains immediately scan your appearance, your body language, your tone of voice, and even your energy. Without you saying a single word, they already have a picture of who you are. Let's look at a real-world example. Think about Barack Obama during his very first major speech at the Democratic National Convention in 2004. Before that night, most of the world didn't know who he was. But the way he carried himself, his calm yet confident voice, and his powerful storytelling created an impression that he was someone to watch. That moment didn't just launch his career. It cemented his presence as a leader. That's the power of a first impression. Or take the story of Winston Churchill. He wasn't the most polished speaker at the beginning of his career. In fact, many criticized him for his unusual speaking style. But Churchill understood that first impressions mattered. He worked tirelessly to improve his public speaking, rehearsing endlessly, and even memorizing entire speeches. By the time he rose to power during World War II, he had mastered the art of presence. His very first impression as Prime Minister was one of strength, resilience, and unwavering determination, a reputation that carried him through history. These examples remind us that first impressions are not about perfection, they're about presence. They're about how we show up in the moments that matter most. Now let's bring it back to you. Think about the last time you went for a job interview, attended a wedding, or even met someone new at a social gathering. Chances are, you dressed a certain way, you adjusted your body language, maybe even practiced your smile in the mirror. Why? Because deep down, you knew that those first few seconds could shape the entire relationship. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman, in his book Thinking, Fast and Slow, explains that our brains operate on 2 systems, one that thinks fast and one that thinks slow. First impressions are part of the fast system. They happen instantly, without deep thought. People are not analyzing every detail of your personality in that moment. Instead, they're picking up quick signals. Does this person look confident? Do they seem trustworthy? Are they approachable? That's all it takes for someone to decide whether they want to connect with you or not. So how do you master the power of first impressions? Let's break it down into practical steps. Step 1. Pay attention to your appearance. Now, this doesn't mean you have to wear the most expensive clothes or look like a movie star. What it does mean is being intentional. Cleanliness, grooming, and dressing appropriately for the situation go a long way. Remember, Your appearance speaks before you do. Step 2. Own your body language. Did you know that over 70% of communication is nonverbal? That means how you stand, where you place your hands, and whether you make eye contact can matter more than your words. Stand tall, keep your shoulders relaxed, and offer a genuine smile. A confident posture sends the message, I respect myself and I respect you. Step 3. Your voice is your instrument. People don't just hear your words, they hear your tone, your pace, and your energy. Speak clearly and with calm confidence. Too fast and you seem nervous. Too slow, and you risk losing their attention. Find a rhythm that shows you are present and engaged. Step 4. Be genuinely curious about others. One of the quickest ways to make a positive impression is to show interest. Ask questions, listen attentively, and engage with what they say. As Dale Carnegie once wrote in How to Win Friends and Influence People, you can make more friends in 2 months by being interested in other people than in 2 years by trying to get them interested in you. That principle is timeless. Let's pause for a moment and imagine 2 scenarios. In the first, you meet someone new, and they talk endlessly about themselves, barely giving you room to speak. In the second, you meet someone who asks about your life, listens attentively, and makes you feel seen. Who leaves the better impression? The answer is obvious. So, whether you are stepping into a new workplace, attending a social event, or simply meeting someone for coffee, remember this. First impressions are not just about being liked. They are about building a foundation of trust. And trust is the currency of all human relationships. Now, before we close this chapter, let's highlight the key takeaways from this chapter. People form impressions of you within seconds, and those impressions are hard to change. First impressions are driven by survival instincts. Our brains make snap judgments. Appearance, body language, voice, and curiosity about others are the 4 pillars of a strong first impression. Being genuine and showing authentic interest in others leaves a lasting mark. Presence matters more than perfection. Show up with confidence and respect. So the next time you walk into a room, ask yourself, what silent message am I sending before I even speak? Leave a comment sharing the last time a first impression shaped your view of someone. Your story might inspire someone else who listens to this audiobook after you. Remember, mastering first impressions is not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about presenting the best, most authentic version of yourself from the very first moment. And that, my friend, is the first step to mastering the laws of human nature. Chapter 4. Reading Nonverbal Communication. Imagine this. You're in a meeting or social gathering. Someone across the room hasn't said a single word to you. But with just one look, you instantly know whether they're open to talking, whether they're distracted, or whether they're uninterested. Isn't it fascinating how much we can say without ever opening our mouths? That's the power of nonverbal communication. Words may carry meaning, but psychologists estimate that more than half of our communication comes from body language, tone, and facial expressions. This means that even when you're silent, you're still speaking. The truth is, most people don't pay attention to these unspoken signals. They focus only on words and miss the entire emotional conversation happening in the background. But when you learn to read nonverbal cues, it's almost like unlocking a secret code of human behavior. Why nonverbal communication matters. Think about world leaders during important speeches. When President John F. Kennedy addressed the American people during the Cuban Missile Crisis, his tone and posture conveyed calm authority, even while the world was on edge. If his voice had trembled, or if his body language showed fear, the entire nation would have panicked. His words mattered, but it was his nonverbal communication that reassured millions. As Albert Mehrabian, a psychology professor at UCLA, famously noted in his book Silent Messages, communication is 7% verbal, 38% vocal, and 55% nonverbal. In other words, people are far more likely to believe how you say something rather than what you say. The language of the face. Your face is like a billboard of emotions. A smile, a raised eyebrow, a slight frown. They reveal what's going on inside before you ever speak. Consider former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. In the early days of her political career, critics said her voice and expressions were too harsh, which made her seem cold. She later worked with a speech coach to soften her expressions and project warmth. This change in nonverbal communication helped her become one of the most influential leaders of her time. Learning to notice these tiny signals in others and controlling your own can completely shift the way people respond to you. Gestures and posture. What the body says. Have you ever spoken to someone who kept crossing their arms, avoiding eye contact, and leaning back? Even without words, you probably sensed they were closed off or defensive. On the other hand, when someone leans in, nods, and keeps their arms open, it signals interest and engagement. World leaders often use posture strategically. Think of Nelson Mandela. When he met with people, he didn't tower over them with stiff authority. He often leaned slightly forward with open hands, signaling respect and equality. That simple body language made people feel valued and heard, strengthening his influence. The voice beyond words. Nonverbal communication isn't just about body movement. It's also about the tone of your voice. You've probably heard the saying, "It's not what you say, it's how you say it." Take Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous, "I Have a Dream" speech. His words were powerful, but imagine if he had delivered them in a flat, monotone voice. They wouldn't have carried the same impact. His rising and falling tone, the pauses, the rhythm, that's what moved hearts and inspired change. Your voice communicates passion, sincerity, and confidence far more than the words themselves. Cultural nuances in nonverbal communication. Here's something important. Nonverbal communication can differ across cultures. A gesture that means "good job" in one place may be offensive in another. For instance, maintaining strong eye contact can show confidence in some societies, but in others, it might be seen as disrespectful. This is why social intelligence isn't just about reading people. It's also about reading context. Always consider the environment before interpreting body language. How to improve your nonverbal intelligence. Observe before you judge. Don't jump to conclusions based on a single gesture. Look for patterns. For example, someone crossing their arms might be defensive, or maybe they're just cold. Match words with body language. If someone says they're fine but their shoulders are tense and their smile looks forced, their body is telling a different story. Believe the body first. Control your own signals. Practice open body language. Relax your shoulders, keep eye contact, and avoid fidgeting. This makes you appear confident and approachable. Mirror strategically. Subtly matching the other person's posture and gestures creates subconscious rapport. Just be careful not to overdo it. Let's take a look at this examples. Job interviews. Imagine saying, "I'm confident I can handle this role," while slouching and avoiding eye contact. The interviewer won't believe your words, they'll believe your body. Relationships. When your partner says, "I'm listening," but keeps looking at their phone, their nonverbal signal speaks louder than their words. Friendships. A friend who gives you a genuine smile and leans in when you talk makes you feel valued, even if they say very little. As Peter Drucker, the father of modern management, once said, "The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said." This is the essence of nonverbal intelligence, understanding the words behind the silence. Key takeaways for you. Over half of communication is nonverbal. Body language, facial expressions, and tone matter more than words. World leaders and influencers use posture, voice, and expressions to connect, persuade, and inspire. Pay attention to patterns, not single gestures. Always consider cultural context when interpreting signals. By mastering your own nonverbal cues, you instantly appear more confident, approachable, and trustworthy. If this chapter gave you valuable insight, imagine what mastering all 15 will do for your life. Learning to read people is like having a superpower, one that can transform your relationships, career, and self-confidence. So, don't just stop here. If you're enjoying this audiobook, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know, which nonverbal cue have you noticed most in your daily life? Chapter 5. Mastering the Art of Listening. Think about the last time you had a conversation with someone and realized they weren't really listening. Maybe their eyes kept drifting to their phone, or they were just waiting for you to finish so they could jump in with their own story. How did that feel? Probably frustrating, maybe even dismissive. Now think about the opposite. A time when someone gave you their full attention. They leaned in, nodded at the right moments, asked thoughtful questions, and made you feel like your words truly mattered. That felt different, didn't it? It made you feel valued, respected, and understood. This is the power of listening. Not just hearing words, but listening deeply, intentionally, and with empathy. Why listening is a superpower. Most people think communication is about talking, about finding the right words, or about persuading others. But in reality, the strongest communicators are often the best listeners. As the philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Listening is more than being polite. It is a form of influence. When you make someone feel heard, you earn trust. And trust is the foundation of every strong relationship, whether it's in business, friendship, or family. A world leader's lesson in listening. Let's take an example from history. Former U.S. President Abraham Lincoln was known for his remarkable listening skills. During his presidency, when the nation was divided and emotions were at their peak, Lincoln would spend hours listening to citizens, soldiers, and advisors. Even when he disagreed with them, he made sure they felt heard. There's a famous story of a man who angrily criticized Lincoln's policies during the Civil War. Instead of shutting him down, Lincoln let the man speak until he had nothing left to say. Then, calmly, Lincoln responded with reason and empathy. That man later admitted he left the meeting not just respecting Lincoln more, but also rethinking his own position. Lincoln's power came not only from his speeches, but from his ability to listen with patience and respect. The science of listening. Modern psychology confirms what Lincoln practiced. Studies show that active listening strengthens relationships, reduces conflict, and increases cooperation. When people feel truly heard, their brains release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which makes them more open, trusting, and connected. Think about this. The next time you're in an argument, you don't always need to fight harder to be right. Sometimes the fastest way to diffuse tension is to listen. Really listen, without interrupting. The 3 levels of listening. To master listening, let's break it down into 3 levels. Internal listening. This is when you're technically hearing someone, but your mind is focused on yourself. You're thinking, what do I say next? How do I sound? This is the weakest form of listening. Focused listening. Here, your attention shifts to the other person. You make eye contact, nod, and reflect back their words. They feel you are present. Empathetic listening. This is the highest level. You're not just hearing words. You're feeling the emotions behind them. You step into their shoes and try to understand their perspective. This is where true connection happens. Imagine a parent and child in conflict. The parent is frustrated because the child didn't do their homework. Instead of yelling, the parent listens. The child explains they were struggling with a problem they didn't understand. Now, the conversation changes from blame to problem solving. In a workplace, an employee might be underperforming. Instead of assuming laziness, a manager takes time to listen and discovers the employee has been overwhelmed with personal challenges. By listening, the manager builds loyalty and trust. In relationships, many arguments are not about facts, but about emotions, feeling ignored, unappreciated, or misunderstood. Listening addresses the root problem, not just the surface issue. How to become a master listener. Here are some simple but powerful steps you can apply immediately. Be fully present. Put away distractions. Look at the person. Show with your body language that they have your attention. Don't interrupt. Let people finish their thoughts. Silence can be uncomfortable, but often it invites deeper honesty. Reflect back. Repeat or rephrase what they said. For example, so what I hear you saying is, this shows understanding and clarity. Ask open questions. Instead of yes or no questions, ask, how did that make you feel? Or, what happened next? This encourages deeper sharing. Listen for emotions, not just words. Notice tone, pace, and body language. Sometimes what's unsaid is more important than what's spoken. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential communicators of our time, has said that after every interview, whether it was with celebrities, politicians, or everyday people, her guests all asked one thing: "Did I do okay?" What they really wanted to know was, "Did you hear me? Did I matter in this conversation?" Oprah's success wasn't just built on asking good questions, but on her ability to listen without judgment, making every guest feel safe and valued. In his book The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen R. Covey said, "Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply." This single insight is a mirror for us all. True listening is not waiting for your turn to speak. It is opening your mind and heart to another person's world. Key takeaways for you. Listening is more than hearing, it's creating connection. There are 3 levels of listening: internal, focused, and empathetic. Aim for empathy. Leaders like Abraham Lincoln and Oprah Winfrey became influential not just because they spoke well, but because they listened deeply. To master listening, be present, don't interrupt, reflect back, ask open questions, and tune into emotions. When people feel heard, they trust you more, respect you more, and are more willing to cooperate with you. If you found value in this chapter, imagine how much more powerful your life can become when you master all the laws of human nature and social intelligence. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear. Have you ever experienced a moment where simply listening changed the outcome of a conversation? Your journey to social intelligence mastery continues in the next chapter. Stay with me. Chapter 6. Understanding Emotional Triggers. Imagine this: you're having a normal day. Everything seems fine. Then someone makes a single comment, maybe about how you look, how you work, or something you've done in the past, and suddenly your mood changes. You feel irritated, hurt, or even angry, and you don't completely understand why. That reaction, my friend, is an emotional trigger. We all have them. They are those sensitive spots in our emotional wiring that, when pressed, spark a reaction stronger than the situation may call for. And the truth is, understanding these triggers, both in ourselves and in others, is one of the most important steps towards social intelligence mastery. What are emotional triggers? Emotional triggers are psychological buttons tied to our deepest fears, insecurities, past experiences, and unmet needs. When these buttons are pressed, logic often takes a back seat, and raw emotion takes over. Think of it like this. Imagine someone pushing a hidden button that instantly makes you feel defensive, ashamed, or angry. That's how powerful emotional triggers are. And if you don't learn to recognize them, you'll find yourself controlled by them rather than in control of them. History and leadership give us powerful lessons about emotional triggers. Take Abraham Lincoln, for example. During his presidency, he was constantly criticized, mocked, and attacked. Yet he was known for his remarkable self-control. Instead of reacting impulsively, he often wrote what he called hot letters when he was angry, but he never sent them. This habit allowed him to process his emotions without letting his triggers control his decisions. Now contrast this with other world leaders in history whose inability to control anger or insecurity led to conflicts, wars, or destroyed reputations. Emotional triggers, when left unchecked, can ripple outward, affecting not only personal relationships but entire nations. Even in everyday life, we see this. A boss lashes out at an employee, not because of the employee's mistake, but because the boss feels disrespected. His status trigger has been activated. Or a friend suddenly grows distant after a playful comment because it unknowingly touched a deep insecurity. Common emotional triggers. While triggers vary from person to person, many are universal. Let's break down a few. Criticism. Even constructive feedback can feel like an attack if it touches our pride. Disrespect. A perceived lack of recognition or value often sparks anger. Rejection. Being ignored, excluded, or dismissed can reopen old wounds. Loss of control. When people feel powerless, frustration arises. Comparison, seeing others succeed, can trigger envy or self-doubt. The key is not to eliminate triggers, but to recognize them and manage the response. The science behind triggers. Neuroscience explains why triggers feel so overwhelming. When we're triggered, the amygdala, the emotional part of our brain, takes over, often overriding the logical part, the prefrontal cortex. This is called an amygdala hijack, a term coined by psychologist Daniel Goleman in his book Emotional Intelligence. In moments like this, your body floods with stress hormones, your heart rate spikes, and your ability to think clearly shrinks. That's why people often regret what they say or do when they're triggered. They were reacting, not responding. How to recognize your own triggers. The first step to mastering emotional triggers is awareness. Ask yourself, what situations consistently make me upset? Whose opinion matters so much that it changes my mood? When was the last time I overreacted, and what caused it? By journaling these moments, you'll start to see patterns. Maybe you realize that being ignored triggers childhood memories of feeling unseen. Or that criticism feels like rejection, even when it's not. How to manage emotional triggers. Once you know your triggers, the next step is learning how to manage them. Here are some strategies. Pause before reacting. Give yourself a mental break. Take a deep breath. As Viktor Frankl wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Reframe the situation. Instead of thinking, they're attacking me, try, this is feedback. How can I grow from it? Practice emotional regulation. Techniques like mindfulness, meditation, or even walking away can help calm your nervous system. Communicate calmly. Instead of lashing out, express your feelings clearly. When this happens, I feel disrespected. This prevents escalation. Reading triggers in others. Social intelligence isn't just about knowing your triggers. It's also about understanding others. Watch body language. Clenched fists, tense shoulders, or sudden silence may signal a trigger. Listen for shifts in tone. When someone's voice becomes sharp or defensive, a button has been pressed. Respect boundaries. If a topic consistently upsets someone, don't poke at it unnecessarily. Great leaders, negotiators, and communicators are masters at spotting these subtle signs. They avoid pressing sensitive buttons, and instead steer conversations toward understanding and resolution. Why this matters for self-growth. When you master emotional triggers, you take back control of your reactions. Prevent manipulation, since people often exploit your triggers. Strengthen relationships, because you stop turning small issues into big conflicts. Grow in influence, since calm, self-aware people naturally command respect. Remember, the goal isn't to never feel triggered. It's to respond with wisdom rather than raw emotion. Key takeaways for you. Emotional triggers are powerful reactions tied to insecurities, fears, or past experiences. Awareness is the first step. Track what consistently makes you react strongly. Learn to pause, reframe, and regulate your emotions before responding. Observe others carefully. Spotting their triggers allows for more thoughtful, empathetic communication. Mastering triggers transforms you from being reactive to being influential. If you found this chapter valuable, don't keep it to yourself. Take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Which emotional triggers have you noticed in yourself or others? Your insight could help someone else on their journey to mastering social intelligence. And remember, each step you take toward understanding human behavior brings you closer to becoming the best version of yourself. Chapter 7. Building Influence Through Trust. Have you ever met someone who had all the right words, all the right charm, and even the right appearance, yet something inside you whispered, "I don't trust them"? Maybe you couldn't explain why, but your gut told you to be careful. That's because trust isn't built with words alone. It's built with consistency, authenticity, and integrity. And without trust, you cannot influence anyone for long. Think about it. Would you take advice from someone you don't trust? Would you follow a leader you don't believe in? Of course not. Trust is the foundation of all human relationships, whether personal, professional, or even political. When trust is strong, influence flows naturally. When trust is broken, no amount of persuasion, money, or power can repair the damage easily. Let's dive deeper into what it really means to build influence through trust. Why trust matters. Imagine you're working with a colleague. They're skilled, intelligent, and confident, but they constantly miss deadlines, make excuses, or twist the truth. No matter how brilliant they are, you hesitate to rely on them. Why? Because your brain automatically links trustworthiness with reliability. Now picture someone else. They may not be the smartest person in the room, but they always keep their promises, they show up when needed, and they tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. That person earns influence because people know their word can be trusted. Stephen M.R. Covey, in his book The Speed of Trust, said, "Trust is the one thing that changes everything. When trust is present, communication is smoother, decisions are faster, and relationships are stronger. When it's absent, everything slows down, breaks apart, and collapses." Let's consider world leaders for a moment. Think of Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison, yet when he was released, he chose forgiveness and reconciliation over revenge. Many expected him to lead with bitterness, but instead, he built trust by showing integrity and compassion. His influence was not because of wealth or power, but because people trusted his vision and his heart. On the other hand, consider leaders who lost trust. History is full of examples where powerful figures fell from grace, not because they lacked skill or charisma, but because dishonesty, corruption, or broken promises shattered the trust people once had in them. And once trust is broken, influence is nearly impossible to rebuild. Even in everyday life, trust is currency. Parents influence their children because of the bond of trust. A teacher inspires a student not just with knowledge, but with the faith that the teacher genuinely cares. A business earns loyalty not only by selling products, but by proving they care about the customer's well-being. The psychology behind trust. Trust isn't just emotional, it's psychological and even biological. Studies show that when people trust one another, the brain releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. This chemical creates feelings of safety and cooperation. When trust is broken, the opposite happens. The brain shifts into a defensive mode, releasing stress hormones like cortisol. The result? Walls go up. Influence shuts down. That's why people can sense insincerity, even when no words are spoken. Trust is less about what you say and more about what you do repeatedly. Over time, consistency shapes perception. How to build influence through trust. So, how can you build trust that leads to influence? Be consistent. If you say you'll do something, follow through, no matter how small. People watch patterns, not promises. Be transparent. Don't hide your mistakes or pretend to be perfect. People respect honesty more than perfection. When you admit a mistake and take responsibility, you earn trust. Show empathy. Influence isn't about control, it's about connection. When people feel understood, they trust you more. Protect confidentiality. If someone shares something in confidence, guard it carefully. Nothing destroys trust faster than gossip or betrayal. Deliver value. Don't just take, give. Share knowledge, support others, and make people feel seen and valued. Let's imagine two managers. Manager A is brilliant but constantly changes decisions, blames the team when things go wrong, and only communicates when pressured. Manager B may not be a genius, but they always share updates, give credit to the team, and admit mistakes openly. Which manager will people follow? Manager B. Why? Because trust beats talent in the long run. The ripple effect of trust. When you build trust, your influence grows beyond one person. Think about a single trusted leader in a community. Their influence spreads across hundreds or even thousands of people. It's like a ripple in water. One act of integrity can echo through generations. But the reverse is also true. One betrayal can undo years of effort. That's why building trust is slow, but losing it can be instant. Key takeaways for you. Trust is the foundation of influence. Without it, nothing else works. Consistency is more powerful than charisma. People believe what you do, not just what you say. Transparency and honesty build credibility. Admitting mistakes shows strength, not weakness. Empathy deepens trust. Understanding others makes them more open to your influence. Protect trust like a treasure. Once broken, it's incredibly hard to rebuild. Building influence through trust is not about manipulation. It's about integrity. The most influential people in history were not always the loudest, richest, or most powerful. They were the ones who built trust so deeply that people willingly followed them. If you want to influence others, whether at work, at home, or in society, start by being someone others can rely on. Influence doesn't come from demanding respect. It comes from earning trust. If this chapter gave you insight, imagine what the rest of this audiobook will unlock for you. I want to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss a chapter. Your growth in mastering social intelligence starts here. Chapter 8: The Psychology of Persuasion and Influence. Have you ever wondered why some people walk into a room and instantly capture everyone's attention, while others struggle to be noticed? Why some leaders inspire loyalty and action, while others can't even get their team to follow simple instructions? The difference often comes down to one powerful skill: the ability to persuade and influence. Now, when people hear the word persuasion, they sometimes think of manipulation. But persuasion, at its core, is not about tricking people. It's about understanding how the human mind works and communicating in a way that connects with people's values, desires, and emotions. Done ethically, persuasion is one of the most important tools for building trust, inspiring change, and creating impact in every area of life, whether in business, leadership, relationships, or even personal growth. The hidden psychology behind persuasion. To master persuasion, you first need to understand a simple truth. People don't make decisions based purely on logic. Most decisions are made emotionally first, and then justified with logic later. That's why someone might buy a new phone not because they need it, but because it makes them feel modern, confident, and connected. Dr. Robert Cialdini, in his classic book Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, identified 6 key principles that explain why people say yes. These principles are like the hidden levers of the human mind: reciprocity, scarcity, authority, consistency, liking, and social proof. Let's explore each of these with examples you can relate to. Reciprocity, the law of giving and receiving. Have you ever noticed that when someone does something nice for you, you feel an almost automatic urge to return the favor? That's reciprocity. A powerful example of this is seen in business. Companies sometimes offer free samples or trials, not just to showcase their product, but because they know people will feel a subconscious pull to give back by making a purchase. As humans, we are wired to keep social balance. So if you want to be more persuasive, start by giving first, whether it's your time, value, or genuine kindness. Scarcity, the fear of missing out. Imagine this: 2 shops are selling the same item. One has plenty in stock, while the other says, "Only 2 left." Which one are you more likely to buy from? Most people choose the second. That's scarcity at work. World leaders often use this principle in speeches, painting a picture of urgency, warning that if action isn't taken now, opportunities will be lost. The human brain is wired to act fast when something feels rare or limited. Authority, the power of credibility. Think about why people listen to doctors, professors, or even certain business leaders. Authority creates influence. When you demonstrate expertise, confidence, and credibility, people are more likely to follow your advice. Nelson Mandela, for example, became a symbol of authority in the fight for freedom, not because he demanded it, but because he lived it. His sacrifices gave his words unmatched weight, and people followed him even when the journey was hard. Consistency, aligning with our commitments. People like to be consistent with what they have already said or done. For example, if someone publicly commits to a goal, they are more likely to follow through. because breaking it would create inner discomfort. This is why great leaders often ask their followers to make small commitments first, because those small steps build momentum, eventually leading to big action. Liking, the influence of connection. We naturally say yes to people we like. And what makes us like someone? Often it's similarity, genuine compliments, or shared experiences. That's why great communicators spend time building rapport before trying to persuade. Think of Mahatma Gandhi. He didn't lead with power or wealth, but with humility and compassion. People liked him because he reflected their struggles and values. His influence grew from connection, not force. Social proof, following the crowd. Have you ever chosen a restaurant simply because it had a long line outside? That's social proof. As humans, we look to others to decide what is right, especially in uncertain situations. This principle explains why reviews, testimonials, and public support are so powerful. Leaders who can show that others are already on board make it easier for new people to follow. Persuasion in everyday life. Now, you might be thinking, this all sounds great for leaders, but how does it apply to me? The truth is, persuasion happens everywhere. Whether you're convincing your team to try a new idea, negotiating with a colleague, asking for a promotion, or even persuading your child to do their homework. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you're asking a friend to join you at the gym. If you say, "You should work out because it's healthy," that's logical, but not very persuasive. But if you say, "Come with me, it will be fun, and we can motivate each other. Plus, the class is almost full," suddenly you've tapped into liking, social proof, and scarcity, all at once. The ethical side of influence. Here's something important to remember. Persuasion should never be about manipulation. The difference lies in intent. Manipulation seeks to trick people for selfish gain. Ethical persuasion seeks to create mutual benefit. As author Dale Carnegie once said in How to Win Friends and Influence People, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. His point was simple. Lasting influence comes not from overpowering others, but from understanding them and guiding them toward choices that help both sides. Key takeaways for you. Persuasion is emotional first, logical second. People decide with feelings and justify with logic. The 6 principles of persuasion, reciprocity, scarcity, authority, consistency, liking, and social proof, are powerful tools in daily life. Ethical persuasion builds trust. The goal is to inspire action, not manipulate. Leaders influence by example. What you do often speaks louder than what you say. You can apply persuasion everywhere, from business negotiations to personal relationships. Before we move to the next chapter, here's something I'd like you to do. Think about one conversation you'll have in the next 24 hours. How can you apply just one of these principles? Maybe showing authority by sharing your expertise, or creating reciprocity by offering help first. Small actions will help you practice until persuasion becomes natural. And if you're enjoying this audiobook and finding it valuable, make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Tell me which persuasion principle you've used before, or which one you want to try next. Your support helps us reach more people who want to master the psychology of human behavior. Chapter 9. Navigating Social Dynamics and Power Plays. Imagine you walk into a meeting room, a family gathering, or even a social event. People aren't just talking, they're silently negotiating power, influence, and respect. Who leads the conversation? Who dominates the space? Who is quietly ignored? Social dynamics are always at play, whether you notice them or not. And if you don't learn how to read and navigate them, you risk becoming invisible or manipulated in ways you may not even realize. This is what we mean by social dynamics and power plays. They are the unspoken rules of interaction, how people position themselves, how they influence others, and how they maintain or challenge authority. When you master this, you no longer feel like life is happening to you. Instead, you become an active player in every social situation. Let's unpack this step by step. The reality of power plays. From childhood to adulthood, we encounter power struggles. Think back to school. The loudest child or the one most admired often set the tone for the group. Fast forward to adulthood, and the same principle applies. In offices, communities, and even governments, some people naturally rise to positions of influence while others follow. But here's the truth. Power isn't always loud or visible. Sometimes it is subtle. Think of Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison, yet emerged as a leader whose authority came not from dominance, but from moral credibility. His power was not in raising his voice, but in raising his vision. Compare that with leaders who used fear or intimidation. They may have achieved short-term control, but history shows us that such power is fragile. It collapses the moment people stop obeying out of fear. True social intelligence teaches us to see the difference between influence that lasts and power that crumbles. The psychology of group dynamics. In any group, whether it's 3 friends at lunch or 100 employees in a company, roles naturally form. Someone becomes the decision maker, someone plays the peacekeeper, and someone else becomes the challenger. Understanding this helps you see beyond words into the silent structure of influence. For instance, when a world leader like Winston Churchill rallied people during World War II, his speeches were not just about words, they reshaped group dynamics. He positioned himself as the voice of courage at a time when fear could have dominated. That's the essence of navigating dynamics. Knowing how to place yourself so that people look to you, not past you. Subtle power plays you should watch for. Let's break down some common power plays you'll encounter in everyday life. Dominating the conversation. Some people talk over others to establish control. Withholding information. Others keep secrets or valuable knowledge to maintain superiority. Name-dropping or status signaling. People highlight connections or possessions to remind others of their place. Silent resistance. Not all power plays are loud. Sometimes someone resists by staying quiet, forcing others to chase their approval. Once you learn to recognize these tactics, you no longer feel confused or pressured. Instead, you see the game being played, and you can decide how to respond. How to position yourself in social dynamics. So how do you rise above without falling into manipulation? Here are a few strategies. Observe before you act. The most socially intelligent people don't rush to speak or dominate. They read the room. As Robert Greene wrote in the 48 Laws of Power, the person who can see what others cannot, who anticipates the play before it happens, holds the advantage. Use soft power. Sometimes quiet confidence is more powerful than loudness. Think of Mahatma Gandhi, whose nonviolent resistance shook an empire. His power came from presence, not force. Build alliances. In any group, influence grows through networks. Even in small settings, aligning with the right people, those who share values and respect, amplifies your position. Stand firm when tested. Power plays often come in the form of tests. Someone may interrupt you, dismiss your idea, or challenge your presence. How you respond sets the tone. Calm, assertive, and respectful replies earn respect without escalating conflict. The balance between influence and manipulation. Now, an important warning. There's a fine line between influence and manipulation. Influence inspires people to follow because they want to, while manipulation forces people to follow because they feel they have no choice. The difference is trust. Once trust is broken, influence disappears. Consider Abraham Lincoln. Known as one of the most influential leaders in history, he built power not by tricking people, but by appealing to their sense of unity and justice. His power play was empathy combined with strategic vision. That's influence worth modeling. Imagine you're at work. A colleague keeps taking credit for ideas you quietly contributed in meetings. That's a power play. If you don't recognize it, you might grow resentful but remain silent. If you confront too harshly, you risk looking unprofessional. The socially intelligent approach is to calmly but firmly redirect recognition. I'm glad you brought that up. It's something I've been developing, and I'd love to expand on it. See the difference? Instead of fighting fire with fire, you reposition yourself without losing dignity. That's social intelligence in action. Key takeaways for you. Social dynamics are present in every group, whether we notice them or not. Power can be loud, but true influence often works quietly through trust and credibility. Recognize common power plays: domination, withholding, status signaling, and silent resistance. Observe before acting, use soft power, build alliances, and stand firm when tested. Influence inspires, manipulation destroys. Choose influence rooted in trust. As you reflect on this chapter, ask yourself, in my daily life, am I being outplayed in social dynamics, or am I consciously navigating them? The difference could mean whether people overlook you, or whether they look up to you. If this chapter gave you valuable insight, make sure you subscribe to this channel, like this video, and drop a comment on what power play you've noticed most in your own life. Your support helps us grow and bring more deep insights like this to you. Now, get ready, because in the next chapter, we'll dive into how to handle conflict and negotiation with the same level of mastery. Chapter 10: Conflict Management and Negotiation Skills. Have you ever been in a situation where a small disagreement turned into a full-blown argument? Maybe it was with a colleague at work, a family member, or even a close friend. You probably walked away thinking, this could have ended differently if only we handled it better. That's the reality of conflict. It's part of life. Whether in personal relationships, business, or politics, conflict is unavoidable. But here's the good news. Conflict doesn't have to destroy. In fact, when managed well, it can actually build stronger relationships and create opportunities for growth. Think about the peace agreements in history. They didn't happen by accident. They came through long, difficult negotiations where leaders had to put aside pride and ego, listen carefully, and find common ground. One famous example is Nelson Mandela. After spending 27 years in prison, he had every reason to hold resentment. But instead, he chose negotiation over revenge. He once said, "If you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy. Then he becomes your partner." Mandela's leadership showed the world that conflict, if handled with wisdom, can turn enemies into allies. So, how do we, in our everyday lives, develop this ability? Let's break it down. 1. Understanding the nature of conflict. Conflict usually happens when there are differences in goals, values, expectations, or communication. For example, at work, you may want to complete a project quickly, but your teammate is more concerned with perfection. At home, one partner may want to save money, while the other wants to enjoy life by spending. These differences create tension. But here's the key: conflict isn't always bad. In fact, conflict often brings hidden issues to the surface. Without it, problems stay buried. The challenge is not avoiding conflict, but managing it effectively. 2. Staying calm and controlling emotions. When we're in conflict, emotions rise quickly. Anger, frustration, and pride can cloud our judgment. Imagine trying to put out a fire while pouring gasoline on it. That's what happens when we react emotionally. In his book Crucial Conversations by Carey Patterson and colleagues, the authors explain that the most important skill in conflict is staying calm and creating safety in the conversation. When people feel safe, they are more likely to open up. But when they feel attacked, they shut down or fight back. So the first step in managing conflict is this: control yourself before you try to control the situation. Take a breath, lower your voice, and remember that winning an argument is not the same as solving the problem. 3. Listen before you speak. Most conflicts spiral out of control because nobody really listens. People are too busy preparing their comeback instead of trying to understand. But listening is one of the most powerful tools in conflict resolution. Consider how successful mediators operate. They don't start by giving solutions. They start by listening deeply to each side. Why? Because once people feel heard, they are more open to compromise. Here's a simple practice. In your next disagreement, instead of defending yourself right away, ask the other person, "Can you help me understand your perspective?" Then listen, not to reply but to understand. You'll be surprised at how this single shift can calm tensions. 4. Focus on interests, not positions. Let me explain this with a story. During a negotiation over scarce resources, two groups argued fiercely. One group said, "We need the resource." The other group said, "No, we need it." At first glance, their positions seemed completely opposite. But when the mediator asked, "Why do you need it?" the first group revealed they needed the outside layer of the resource, while the other only needed the inside. Suddenly, the conflict had a solution. This is the essence of negotiation. Don't just argue over positions, dig deeper into interests. Positions are what people say they want. Interests are why they want it. When you uncover the why, solutions become possible. 5. The power of win-win negotiation. In his classic book Getting to Yes by Roger Fisher and William Ury, the authors emphasize the principle of win-win negotiation. Instead of seeing conflict as a battle where one side wins and the other loses, think of it as problem-solving. Ask, how can we both get something valuable out of this? This approach is not about being weak or giving in. It's about being smart. World leaders, business executives, and even great parents use win-win strategies. Because when both sides feel satisfied, the agreement lasts. 6. Knowing when to walk away. Of course, not all negotiations end in harmony. Sometimes, the other person refuses to cooperate. In such cases, you need to know your BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Simply put, it means having a backup plan. If the deal or resolution doesn't meet your basic needs, you walk away. Think of it like shopping. If one store refuses to give you a fair price, you don't stay and argue forever. You go to another store. Life is the same. Sometimes the smartest move is to step back and protect your peace. Let's imagine two coworkers. One values speed, the other values quality. They keep clashing over deadlines. If they approach it as a battle, speed versus quality, they'll always argue. But if they sit down and ask, what's most important for this project? They might realize speed is needed in the beginning and quality is crucial at the end. By splitting responsibilities, both needs are met. Conflict transforms into collaboration. Now imagine this applied to your personal life. With family, with friends, even with strangers. Instead of pushing your way through every disagreement, you pause, listen, understand, and find common ground. That's true social intelligence. Key takeaways for you. Conflict is natural, but it doesn't have to be destructive. It can be a doorway to stronger relationships. Control your emotions first. A calm mind creates better solutions. Listen actively. Understanding comes before being understood. Focus on interests, not positions. Ask why to uncover deeper needs. Aim for win-win solutions. Think in terms of problem-solving, not battles. Know when to walk away. Protect your peace when cooperation isn't possible. So, the next time you find yourself in conflict, whether with a coworker, a friend, or even within yourself, remember that you have a choice. You can fight to win, or you can negotiate to grow. Mastering conflict management and negotiation skills isn't about avoiding disagreements. It's about transforming them into opportunities for connection, understanding, and progress. If you found value in this chapter, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me, what's the biggest conflict you've faced, and how did you handle it? Your story might just inspire someone else. And remember, every conflict carries within it the seed of a solution. It's up to you to find it. Chapter 11. The Role of Empathy in Human Connection. Have you ever felt completely misunderstood? You're explaining yourself, but the other person just isn't getting it. They might be nodding, but deep inside you can tell they're not really connecting with what you feel. That gap, that invisible wall, is what empathy tears down. Empathy is not just about kindness. It's about power. The power to understand people so deeply that they feel seen, heard, and valued. And in today's world, where everyone is talking but few are truly listening, empathy has become one of the most valuable skills you can master. Let's break it down. Empathy is the ability to step into someone else's shoes, to imagine their world, their emotions, and their perspective, even if it's completely different from yours. It's like adjusting your lens so you can see the world through their eyes. Let me share a real story. During one of the most challenging moments in history, Abraham Lincoln was heavily criticized for showing kindness to his opponents. A colleague once told him, "Mr. President, you should destroy your enemies." Lincoln responded, "Do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends?" That statement wasn't just wisdom, it was empathy. Lincoln understood that to unite a divided nation, he had to see beyond anger, beyond differences, and connect to the human side of those even against him. His leadership wasn't only built on strategy, it was built on empathy. Empathy allows leaders, parents, teachers, and even business professionals to do more than communicate. It allows them to connect. And when you connect, influence follows naturally. Why empathy matters in everyday life. Think about this. Imagine a coworker who's been quiet lately, delivering work late, and snapping at small things. Without empathy, you might label them as lazy, irresponsible, or even disrespectful. But with empathy, you might pause and ask yourself, what's going on in their world? Are they struggling with something I can't see? Maybe they just lost someone they love. Maybe they're battling silent anxiety. By approaching with empathy instead of judgment, you don't just get better results, you build trust and loyalty that lasts a lifetime. Psychologist Daniel Goleman, in his book Emotional Intelligence, wrote, "Empathy represents the foundation skill for all the social competencies important for work." He emphasizes that without empathy, teamwork, leadership, and even healthy relationships collapse. Different faces of empathy. Now, here's something important. Empathy isn't one size fits all. It comes in different forms. Cognitive empathy, understanding someone's perspective intellectually. It's like saying, "I see where you're coming from." Emotional empathy, actually feeling what the other person feels. If they're sad, you almost feel the sadness in your chest too. Compassionate empathy, going beyond understanding and feeling, and taking action to help. The most powerful connections happen when these three work together. Let's take an example from the world of business. During the 1982 Tylenol crisis, Johnson & Johnson faced a nightmare. Their product had been tampered with and people died. Instead of focusing on profit or image, the company's leaders immediately pulled every bottle off the shelves, costing them millions. Why? Because they put themselves in the shoes of the grieving families. They felt the fear of the public. That empathy-driven decision saved their reputation and built long-lasting trust. Empathy is not soft. It's strong. It creates loyalty, inspires confidence, and opens doors that logic and authority alone can't. The barriers to empathy. But let's be honest, why don't we practice empathy more often? There are barriers. Self-focus. We're too caught up in our own problems. Judgment. We assume people should act or think like us. Fear of vulnerability. To truly empathize, you have to open yourself to emotions, and that can feel risky. Overcoming these barriers requires awareness. It means pausing and asking, am I really listening? Or am I just waiting to reply? How to build empathy, practical steps. So how do you grow your empathy muscles? Here are a few steps you can start today. Listen with full presence. Put away distractions. Look at the person. Let them feel your attention. Ask open-ended questions. Instead of "Are you okay?" ask, "What's been on your mind lately?" Reflect feelings. If someone says, "I'm so overwhelmed," respond with, "It sounds like you've been carrying a lot." That reflection tells them you're tuned in. Read widely. Books, stories, and biographies expose you to lives different from yours. Reading is empathy training in disguise. Practice perspective shifting. In conflicts, ask yourself, if I were them with their background, would I see it differently? Each time you practice, empathy becomes less of an effort and more of who you are. The ripple effect of empathy. When you show empathy, something amazing happens. You give people permission to be real. They lower their defenses. They trust you more. And in return, they often show you empathy back. It creates a ripple effect, one that can heal relationships, strengthen teams, and even bring divided communities closer. Nelson Mandela once said, If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. That is empathy. It speaks the language of the heart. Imagine a world where leaders empathize with the people they serve, where partners empathize with each other, where strangers practice empathy on the streets. Conflicts would shrink, trust would rise, and human connection would feel natural again. Key takeaways for you. Empathy is not just about kindness, it's about power, influence, and connection. There are 3 kinds of empathy: cognitive, emotional, and compassionate. Empathy transforms misunderstandings into trust and conflicts into cooperation. You can grow your empathy by practicing active listening, asking open questions, reflecting emotions, and shifting perspectives. Leaders, businesses, and individuals who practice empathy don't just survive, they thrive. So, as you move forward, challenge yourself. The next time someone annoys you, disappoints you, or even disagrees with you, pause. Instead of rushing to judge, ask, what might they be feeling right now? What story lies behind their action? That single pause could be the beginning of deeper understanding and stronger connection. Empathy is not just a skill, it's a way of living. And once you master it, you don't just read people, you touch their lives. If you found value in this chapter, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us, how will you practice empathy today? Your story might inspire someone else to take the same step. Because remember, knowledge only matters when it's applied. And empathy, when applied, has the power to change not just your relationships, but the world around you. Chapter 12. Detecting Lies and Hidden Motives. Have you ever trusted someone only to find out later that they weren't completely honest with you? Maybe a friend promised to keep your secret, but somehow it got out. Or a colleague said they had your back, but when the time came, they quietly stepped aside. Few things sting more than realizing you were misled. Lies and hidden motives exist everywhere. In business, in politics, in relationships, even in everyday casual conversations. But here's the good news. Once you understand the psychology of deception and learn how to spot the subtle signs, you'll be able to protect yourself from manipulation and make better decisions about who deserves your trust. Why people lie? First, let's ask, why do people lie in the first place? Psychologists suggest that lying is a survival skill deeply rooted in human nature. Some lies are harmless, like when someone says, "I'm fine," even though they're not. But others can be dangerous, like lies to gain power, money, or control. World leaders throughout history have used lies and hidden motives as tools of strategy. For example, Winston Churchill once said during World War II, "In wartime, truth is so precious that she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies." This statement reminds us that deception can sometimes be deliberate, strategic, and even considered necessary under certain circumstances. But in everyday life, lies usually serve personal gain at the expense of others. The science of detecting lies. Now, how do we actually detect lies? There is no single foolproof method, no Pinocchio's nose that grows longer. But research shows that deception often leaks through body language, tone, and word choice. Paul Ekman, a world-renowned psychologist and author of Telling Lies, discovered that people unconsciously reveal microexpressions, tiny facial expressions that flash for just a fraction of a second before they can control them. These microexpressions can show hidden emotions such as fear, anger, or guilt, even if the person is trying to appear calm. For example, imagine someone smiling while telling you they're happy for your success, but for a split second, their eyebrows tighten and their lips press together. That tiny flash of envy may reveal more than their words ever will. Common signs of deception. Let's go deeper into some signs that often indicate lying. Inconsistencies in storytelling. Liars often struggle to keep their story straight. They may change small details when you ask the same question later. Truth is consistent. Lies tend to shift. Excessive justification. When someone is lying, they may over-explain. Instead of a simple, "I was late because of traffic," they might add unnecessary details. There was traffic, then my phone battery died, then I saw a dog crossing the street. Overcompensation can be a red flag. Body language disconnect. When words and body language don't match, trust the body. If someone says, "I'm confident," but their shoulders are hunched and they avoid eye contact, the truth may be different. Microexpressions. As we mentioned earlier, these fleeting expressions betray real emotions. Fear, disgust, or guilt can surface for a split second. Voice patterns. Stress can change vocal pitch. If someone suddenly speaks faster, pauses more often, or their tone rises, it may signal discomfort. Too much or too little eye contact. Contrary to popular belief, liars don't always avoid eye contact. Sometimes they stare too much, trying to prove honesty. Balanced, natural eye contact is usually more genuine. Hidden motives, reading between the lines. Sometimes people may not be lying outright, but may be hiding their true intentions. This can be even harder to detect. For instance, a business partner may speak kindly and agree with your ideas, but secretly, they are waiting for the right moment to take advantage of your work. One powerful way to detect hidden motives is to look at what people don't say. Pay attention to gaps, silence, or the subjects they avoid. If someone always changes the topic when money is mentioned, that silence may reveal more than their words. Another way is to observe patterns of behavior over time. One kind gesture does not always mean genuine goodwill, but consistent actions that align with words show integrity. The writer Robert Greene, in The Laws of Human Nature, explains, "People will rarely tell you exactly what they are thinking or what they feel. Instead, they will reveal themselves in small ways, through body language, tone, or contradictions. When you pay attention to those small cracks, the bigger picture becomes clear." Think about how political debates often reveal hidden motives. A leader may publicly promise change and prosperity, but behind closed doors, their true motive could be personal enrichment or power consolidation. Journalists and analysts often look for inconsistencies in speech and behavior to expose the truth. Or consider personal relationships. A partner who says, "I'm committed," but consistently avoids discussions about the future may have motives different from what their words suggest. By learning to spot these contradictions, you save yourself from heartbreak, betrayal, or disappointment. Practical steps for you. So, how can you apply this knowledge in your everyday life? Observe, don't judge too quickly. Not every nervous habit is a lie. Learn to look for clusters of signs, not just one. Ask the same question in different ways. Truth remains consistent. Lies tend to shift. Pay attention to timing. If someone takes too long to answer a simple question, they might be fabricating. Trust patterns, not promises. Look at what people do repeatedly, not just what they say. Practice empathy. Sometimes people hide motives not to harm, but to protect themselves. Balance awareness with compassion. Key takeaways for you. People lie for survival, protection, or personal gain. Lies often reveal themselves through inconsistencies, body language, and microexpressions. Hidden motives can be detected by observing what people avoid saying and by studying long-term behavior patterns. The best protection against deception is awareness, observation, and trusting patterns over promises. Before we continue, kindly like and subscribe. You can also drop a comment below sharing a time when you felt someone wasn't being completely honest with you. Your story might help another listener learn. Now, let's move forward together into the next step of mastering social intelligence. Chapter 13. Adapting to different personalities. Have you ever wondered why some conversations flow so smoothly while others feel like you're walking on broken glass? You could be talking about the same topic, but with one person it feels effortless, and with another, it feels like a battle. The difference is often not about what you're saying. It's about who you're saying it to, and how you adapt to their personality. Social intelligence at its core is not about changing who you are. It's about recognizing who you are dealing with and adjusting just enough so that communication becomes a bridge, not a barrier. Think of it like traveling to a foreign country. You don't abandon your identity, but you might learn a few local phrases or gestures to make people feel respected and understood. That small adjustment creates connection. Why personality matters. Personality is like the operating system of a human being. It guides how we process information, how we respond to stress, and how we interact with the world. Some people are naturally loud, confident, and outgoing. Others are quiet, analytical, and prefer to listen more than they speak. Some thrive in details, while others are big-picture dreamers. If you treat everyone the same way, you'll quickly find yourself misunderstood. But when you adapt, when you meet people in their style, you build trust, influence, and respect. Daniel Goleman, in his book Social Intelligence, wrote, "Empathy represents the foundation skill for all the social competencies important for work. Understanding others' feelings and perspectives and taking an active interest in their concerns is the building block of social effectiveness. And the key to empathy is understanding personality. Imagine you're in a team meeting. One colleague is excited, bouncing with energy, throwing out big ideas left and right. Another sits quietly listening, only speaking when asked, but when they do, their points are sharp and detailed. If you approach both with the same communication style, say, with rapid-fire brainstorming, you'll probably lose the quieter colleague. If you focus only on details and careful structure, you might frustrate the energetic one. This is why flexibility is crucial. Social intelligence means adjusting your pace, tone, and message depending on who you're dealing with. Think about Winston Churchill and Franklin D. Roosevelt during World War II. Churchill was fiery, dramatic, full of bold speeches that stirred emotions. Roosevelt, on the other hand, had a calm, steady, and reassuring presence. Despite their very different personalities, they built one of the strongest political alliances in history. How? They adapted to each other. Churchill toned down his drama in private meetings, while Roosevelt gave Churchill the space to express his passion. They met in the middle, respecting each other's styles. This flexibility helped shape the course of world history. The 4 major personality styles. Now let's simplify this. While human personality is complex, many psychologists agree that people often fall into broad categories. Let's use 4 simple ones here. The driver, task-oriented, direct, decisive. They like results. The expressive, social, energetic, loves new ideas and recognition. The analytical, logical, detail-oriented, careful. They value accuracy. The amiable, warm, supportive, relationship-focused. They value harmony. You probably know people in each of these categories. The challenge is not labeling them, but learning how to adapt. With drivers, get to the point. Show results. Don't waste time. With expressives, match their enthusiasm. Celebrate ideas. Keep it fun. With analyticals, bring data, evidence, and structure. Don't rush them. With amiables, build rapport. Show care. Don't pressure them. When you adjust your style this way, people feel respected, heard, and more open to you. Consider Nelson Mandela. He had the unique ability to adapt to anyone, whether it was a political enemy, a grieving mother, or a young student. He once said, "If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart." Mandela wasn't just speaking about literal language. He meant adjusting to people's emotional and personality language. That's what made him not just a leader, but a unifier. Practical application for you. So how can you apply this in your daily life? Observe before you speak. Notice if the person is more energetic or reserved, more detail-focused or big picture. Adjust your communication. If they're fast-paced, speed up. If they're calm and measured, slow down. Mirror gently. Use similar body language, tone, or energy. Not imitation, but alignment. Respect differences. Don't try to force people to act like you. Meet them where they are. The goal is not manipulation. The goal is connection. Think about a manager who loves data, charts, and reports. They're analytical. Now imagine their employee is expressive, full of enthusiasm and verbal ideas, but not always detail-heavy. If the manager insists only on spreadsheets, the employee feels stifled. If the employee keeps pitching big ideas without structure, the manager feels frustrated. But when both adapt, the manager listens to the ideas first, then asks for supporting data, and the employee learns to organize thoughts before sharing. They meet halfway. Productivity increases and tension decreases. That's the power of adapting to personality. Key takeaways for you. Personality shapes how people see the world. Respect it. Social intelligence is about flexibility, not forcing your way. Adaptation builds trust, reduces conflict, and increases influence. Learn to recognize broad personality styles: driver, expressive, analytical, amiable. Great leaders and communicators, from Mandela to Roosevelt, succeeded because they adapted to others. So as you move forward, remember this. Every conversation is a dance. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow, but the magic happens when you move in rhythm with the other person's style. Adaptability is not weakness. It's the highest form of social intelligence. If you found this chapter valuable, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this audiobook, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us, what personality type do you find the hardest to adapt to? Your insight could spark someone else's breakthrough. Now, let's move on to the next chapter, where we'll continue unlocking the secrets of human behavior and social mastery. Chapter 14. Building Charisma and Presence. Have you ever met someone who walks into a room, and instantly, all eyes turn toward them? They may not be the tallest, the loudest, or even the most attractive person there, but somehow, they capture attention effortlessly. That magnetic quality is called charisma, and paired with a strong presence, it can open doors, deepen relationships, and create lasting influence. The good news is, charisma isn't something you're either born with or not. It's not magic, and it's not reserved for celebrities or world leaders. It's a skill, a combination of behaviors, attitudes, and emotional awareness that anyone can learn and master. What charisma really is. Charisma is often misunderstood. Many people think it's about being flashy, entertaining, or extroverted. But true charisma is deeper. It's the ability to make others feel seen, heard, and valued. Take Nelson Mandela, for example. He was known for his extraordinary presence. Even after spending 27 years in prison, he walked out with dignity and warmth that drew people to him. When he met others, whether they were presidents or ordinary citizens, he gave them his full attention, making them feel important. That's the essence of charisma. When people walk away from you, they feel better about themselves. Similarly, Oprah Winfrey is often described as one of the most charismatic people in the world. Why? Because when she interviews guests, she leans in, listens deeply, and connects with their emotions. Her charisma comes from empathy and genuine interest, not from dominating conversations. Charisma is not about you. It's about the effect you have on others. The 3 elements of charisma. According to Olivia Fox-Caban in her book The Charisma Myth, charisma is built on 3 pillars: presence, power, and warmth. Presence, being fully in the moment. When you talk to someone, don't glance at your phone, don't scan the room, give them your complete focus. People can feel when you're mentally elsewhere. Presence creates trust. Power, not about physical strength or authority, but about how much influence you appear to have over your environment. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. when he delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech. His calm confidence projected power without arrogance. Warmth, the ability to express kindness, compassion, and goodwill. It's the difference between being admired from afar and being loved up close. Warmth makes people want to connect with you. When these 3 combine, people see you as someone worth listening to, following, and trusting. Practical steps to build charisma and presence. So, how can you develop charisma in your daily life? Let's break it down. 1. Master eye contact. Think about the last conversation you had with someone who kept glancing at their phone or looking around the room. How did it make you feel? Probably unimportant. Charismatic people maintain warm, steady eye contact, not staring, but enough to show they're engaged. 2. Improve your body language. Stand tall. Keep your shoulders relaxed but upright. Use open gestures instead of crossing your arms. These small signals communicate confidence and approachability. Research shows that 93% of communication is nonverbal. Your body speaks louder than your words. 3. Slow down your speech. Charismatic speakers don't rush. They pause, they emphasize, and they allow silence to add weight to their words. Think of Barack Obama's speeches. His pace and pauses gave him authority and allowed his message to sink in. 4. Practice active listening. Here's a secret. People remember not what you said, but how you made them feel. Nod, reflect back their words, and show you're genuinely engaged. Dale Carnegie once wrote in How to Win Friends and Influence People. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get them interested in you. 5. Develop emotional awareness. Charisma isn't about always being cheerful. It's about being in tune with the emotional atmosphere. If someone is sad, meet them with empathy. If the room is tense, acknowledge it calmly. Emotional intelligence fuels charisma. Imagine 2 colleagues walk into a meeting. The first one bursts in, rattling off ideas, dominating the conversation, but never really acknowledging others. The second one enters quietly, shakes hands warmly, listens first, and speaks with calm confidence. Who do you think people will remember and respect? It's not always the loudest voice that carries influence. It's the presence that leaves an emotional mark. How to build presence in daily life. Presence isn't only for public speakers or leaders. It's something you can cultivate in everyday interactions. Here are some exercises. Mindful pauses. Before entering a conversation, take 1 deep breath. Center yourself. This prevents you from rushing or appearing distracted. The 2-second rule. When someone finishes speaking, wait 2 seconds before replying. This shows you've truly absorbed their words. Micro-connections. In daily life, greet people with a smile, ask genuine questions, and hold eye contact. Small acts of presence create lasting impressions. The power of stories and emotion. Charismatic people are often powerful storytellers. They don't just throw facts. They wrap information in stories that spark emotion. Remember Steve Jobs' product launches? He didn't just say, "Here's a new phone." He told a story about how it would change lives. Stories plus emotion equals presence. Key takeaways for you. Charisma is not a gift, it's a skill. You can learn it by practicing presence, power, and warmth. Charismatic people focus outward. They make others feel important, not themselves. Nonverbal cues matter more than words. Eye contact, posture, and tone shape your presence. Charisma builds trust and influence. People follow those who make them feel valued. Emotional awareness is your secret weapon. Reading the room makes you magnetic. Charisma and presence are not about pretending to be someone else. They're about bringing out the best version of yourself and allowing others to feel it. Remember, people may forget your words, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So as you continue your journey in mastering social intelligence, practice these small but powerful habits. You'll notice doors opening, relationships deepening, and opportunities coming your way, all because of the energy you project. If you found this chapter valuable, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment below sharing how you plan to practice charisma in your daily life. Your growth journey inspires others too, and together, we can all master the art of human connection. Chapter 15. Mastery of Social Intelligence for Self-Improvement. Imagine for a moment, you're at a gathering, surrounded by people. Some seem to instantly draw attention. Their presence feels magnetic. When they speak, others lean in. When they listen, others feel heard. And when they walk away, they leave a lasting impression. Now, here's the secret. Those people are not always the smartest in the room, not the wealthiest, not even the most skilled. What they've mastered is social intelligence. The ability to understand human behavior, connect with others on a deeper level, and move through life with confidence and clarity. But here's the good news. This is not a gift reserved for a chosen few. It's a skill. And like every skill, it can be learned, practiced, and mastered. In this final chapter, we're bringing everything together. We'll explore how you can integrate the laws of human nature, the art of influence, and the power of empathy into your daily life. Not just to succeed with others, but to grow into the best version of yourself. The shift from knowing to mastery. Knowledge alone doesn't create transformation. You've listened through lessons on body language, persuasion, trust, empathy, and charisma. But mastery happens when you consistently apply what you've learned. Think about athletes or musicians. They don't master their craft by reading books about it. They master it by practicing, failing, adjusting, and improving. The same applies to social intelligence. For example, let's take Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison, and when he emerged, he had every reason to be bitter. But instead of allowing anger to guide his actions, he chose reconciliation. He understood the psychology of human behavior, the need for dignity, respect, and hope. His ability to connect with friend and foe alike made him not only a leader, but a symbol of unity. Mandela didn't just know about human behavior, he lived it. He embodied social intelligence. How mastery transforms self-improvement. So, what does it look like to apply social intelligence for your own growth? Clarity in communication. Mastery means you no longer stumble over misunderstandings. You express yourself clearly, and more importantly, you listen deeply. This makes your relationships, whether personal or professional, far more rewarding. Emotional regulation. Instead of reacting with anger or insecurity, you pause, reflect, and choose a response. This is where self-mastery meets social mastery. The famous philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That truth lies at the heart of social intelligence. Confidence without arrogance. True mastery builds an inner calm. You don't need to prove yourself in every room. You don't crave validation. Instead, you stand firm in your values while still making others feel valued. Greater opportunities. Whether in career, business, or community, opportunities flow toward those who know how to connect with people. Think about leaders like Oprah Winfrey. Her success wasn't just about talent. It was about empathy, listening, and creating space for others to feel seen and heard. That's social intelligence at work. Practical steps toward mastery. Here's how you can start practicing today. Reflect daily. After each social interaction, ask yourself, what did I notice about the other person's mood, tone, or body language? Did I respond with empathy? Practice active listening. Next time someone talks to you, focus fully. Don't plan your response while they're speaking. Just listen. People can feel the difference. Embrace discomfort. Growth happens outside your comfort zone. Start conversations with strangers, join new groups, or speak in front of an audience. Each experience strengthens your social muscles. Observe great communicators. Watch speeches by leaders like Barack Obama, Martin Luther King Jr., or Maya Angelou. Notice how they balance confidence with warmth. Study, then practice. Journal your progress. Keep a simple log of situations where you applied social intelligence. Over time, you'll see patterns and improvements. The inner work of mastery. Here's the truth. Social intelligence begins inside you. To understand others, you must first understand yourself. Ask yourself, what are my own triggers? Where do I struggle with empathy? Do I crave validation, or do I value authentic connection? Mastery requires honesty. The more self-aware you become, the easier it is to navigate the emotions, desires, and behaviors of others. As Daniel Goleman, author of Social Intelligence, The New Science of Human Relationships, puts it, empathy and social skills are social intelligence, the interpersonal part of emotional intelligence. That's why they look alike. Let me share a quick story. There was a young professional who struggled in meetings. He had ideas, but whenever he spoke, others ignored him. Instead of giving up, he began studying body language and active listening. He noticed that the people who got attention leaned forward, made eye contact, and spoke with pauses that carried weight. He started applying the same techniques. Within months, his colleagues began turning to him for input. His ideas didn't change, his delivery did. That's the power of social intelligence. It transforms not only how others see you, but also how you see yourself. Key takeaways for you. Mastery is application. It's not what you know, but what you practice daily. Social intelligence improves self-improvement, better communication, emotional regulation, and confidence. Empathy and awareness are core. The more you understand yourself, the more you understand others. Opportunities follow connection. Success in life is built on relationships, and relationships thrive on social intelligence. Now, as we wrap up this audiobook, here's my challenge to you. Don't let this be just another inspiring listen. Take one idea, just one, from this chapter, and apply it today. Practice it until it becomes second nature. Because true mastery isn't in listening, it's in living. If this audiobook has given you valuable insights, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, share your biggest takeaway, and let's build a community of growth together. And if you want more life-changing insights like this, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell, so you never miss the next audiobook that could shift your perspective and transform your life. Remember, the mastery of social intelligence isn't just about reading others. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, someone who understands, connects, and inspires. And that journey begins with you.